Welcome back to AgriTalk. Today we are talking about avocado farming, and I'm joined by two gentlemen from the Rural African Development Association. Um, Let me come back to you, Alex. For any business to make sense, uh, there are some threshold that you need to meet. So when I'm starting my avocado farming, is there a number of trees that I need to start with for it to make business sense for me at the end of the season?
Oh, well, we don't really say that there's a minimum number of trees that you can have, but we always say when you start, the best thing is to start. And when you start, you learn. So along the way, if you have, I would advise because most farmers, small scale like we say, cannot like a space where they can plant at least 30 to 50 seedlings for a start. But if you want to go big, I would advise that you go from 200 to 400 trees. But for a start, because you need to learn by doing, having 20 to 50 trees can be good for you, and you will also have some returns that can encourage you to go further or even stop. But I've never met a farmer, Philip, for the last 2 or 3 years that I've been involved in the avocado business, who started avocado businesses and he did cut down his trees.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm a new avocado farmer, and my trees are fruiting.
Yeah.
When do I know that they are ready for harvest? What do I need to look at?
Oh, well, that depends on the variety, Philip. The sizing. Because you realize also the sizing matters when we are exporting. We export in either 10 kgs or in 4 kgs a carton. So in plants like the giant, the number of fruits in a box of 4 kgs are really low compared to other fruits like the pink cartons. So that matters a lot. You also have, you can check what we call a physical check for a fruit by the sizing and also the color. You realize that they changes towards the dark green color as they mature or get ready for harvesting. And then another thing which I'm saying is an advantage to the farmer is we have companies who send their field agents to mark and know when your fruits are ready for the harvest, because I don't think there is any exporter who would want to harvest a premature fruit. It has happened before for the chase of the market, but nowadays it's quite strict, and a farmer would not really make a loss because his fruits were harvested prematurely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Waweru, during harvesting, what do a farmer need to know from the time they start harvesting to the time their fruit gets to the point of exit?
That's a very good question, Philip. So what happens is that during harvest, the farmer can decide to do harvesting by themselves, or they can contract an exporting company to do it, to do the harvesting on their behalf. Because what happens is that farmers, they do harvesting of the fruit, but they along the process of harvesting, they mishandle the fruit. You find that they break the fruit or they breeze the fruit. By the time it's getting to being frozen and export, it has already loosened the quality. So what happens is that we go to farmers, advise them on how to pick. For instance, when you pick a fruit, you're supposed to pick it and leave the attachment from the fruit to the tree, so that now by the time it gets to the packing houses, the only thing that you're going to do, just going to trim the attachment and wash it with chlorine and pack it in boxes ready for freezing. But here comes the challenge. You find that most farmers, after they harvest their produce, they just load them on pickups or rollies, ready to transport them to packing houses or collection centers. So what we advise farmers is pick the fruits, pack them in boxes, pack the boxes in either pickup or lorry or whatever you want to use, and make sure that you handle the fruit well from the farm to the packing houses. So when the fruit comes to the packing houses, so what we do, we just sort them in sizes. Mostly it's a machine that does the sorting, or in case the machine has some hiccups or whatever, we do sorting by hands. Then we wash the fruits with chlorine just to get rid of pests and diseases or any other foreign materials that may interfere with the quality of the fruit. After washing, we take the fruit direct to freezing, to freezers. In freezers, we freeze the fruit to -2 degrees Celsius. It's very important to note on that, -2 degrees Celsius. And the freezing time is between 1 to 1.5 weeks. After that now, during the, someone will ask me, how do I monitor the temperatures in the freezers? So what happens is the freezers are fitted with sensors. So every time they'll sense the temperature of the fruit. So when the fruit gets to -2 degrees Celsius, the sensor stops. And now it tells us that the fruit is ready for export. After 1 week, we take the fruits. Mostly, we do our export through the ship by water. Take the fruit to Mombasa because that's the main shipping port. Now ready to export to foreign markets.
Okay. You okay, Leo? You good, sawa? Tunaendelea? Okay. Wawiru, you talked that you also offer extension services.
Correct.
How important is extension officers to farmers?
Good. That's a good question. I'll tell you, Philip. What I learned, the only difference between Kenyan farmers and maybe farmers from other countries, the difference is very minimal. Us as Kenyan farmers, we assume very little information. For instance, I'll give you an example. The quality of the soil. Because like you said, we cannot plant avocados anywhere in Kenya. There are specific places that avocado will do good. For instance, Murang'a, Nyeri, Meru, Kiambu. We've seen other counties coming up. So the question that comes into place, why these counties compared to other counties? It's the climatic conditions and the soil. Avocados, they really like lime and sandy soil, which is easy to drainage, and they don't tolerate high pH. So your question comes in, why is extension important to farmers? Extension is important to farmers in the sense that we are going to educate farmers, give them information about these little things that we assume, things to do with quality of soil, the type of fertilizers to use, the type of chemicals to use, market forces. But now, we are taking the extension services to a higher level. We are moving it from farmers to institutions. If times allow, I can just say this. Recently, we've contracted some schools because we find that many schools in Kenya, they have huge chunks of land which they don't use it for nothing. So we go to school and tell them that you can utilize this land, you can plant avocados, not for market, to be used within the school. And if the land is good and they can accommodate like 1,000 seedlings, more than 1,000 seedlings, sorry, they can do the marketing and still fetch the prices for the school. So you find that you're trying to kill two birds with one stone.
Okay. Alex, we've talked about the export market for so long.
Yeah.
How is the local market for avocados?
Oh, well. What we do is we are in business. And in business, you go for the best. So farmers are really kind of ditching the local market for the export market. But doesn't mean that we don't have adequate. Because you realize there are also farmers there are people, households, who just do an avocado as a really huge business, but for own consumption at home, and the excesses also penetrate to our local markets. So you realize that there are some households which you would walk around and see like 4, 3 or 5, 6 trees, and these that really make them able to access an exporter. So these are the kind of markets, the kind of produce which penetrates to our local markets. And you realize also that I would also advise farmers, it's a good hit for the export market, because the local market also, it's good, yeah, we produce for the local market, but let's fetch more of what is available for export, and whatever you have as an excess, we can get it to the local market.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll ask this question to both of you. Some time back, there was this conversation that China is opening their markets for avocados. How is that process so far? And have we started exporting our avocados to China? Or what are the challenges if we have not?
I think the conversation was there in 2019, and that was a time when everybody was happy, I would say. All farmers were keen to the market, and as usual, the political leaders came in and talked about it in a very high-ended level. But there's something that we forgot. We talked about it as a market, but we never looked into what are the requirements of the market. That's why you realize that after we are hitting the third year and we have not yet exploited the Beijing China market for avocados. Why? Because of the standard that were put in place. We have not yet met the capacity of exporting our avocado to the Chinese market. Why? There's a very high standard that they really put. One, they required our avocados to be frozen to negative 30 degrees. That tells you what? We need high-level equipment to freeze our avocado. We are actually doing at -2 at the moment. To get it to -30, that tells you we really need kind of a high technology cold storage machinery. And can you really tell me farmers at lower level can really manage to acquire this equipment? So in as much we celebrated a lot the Chinese market and everything else, the government never came into place to facilitate farmers to acquire the equipment to exploit the Beijing market. And going forward, this is a trend that is coming into our country. We get the market, but the government never assists the farmers to get into exploiting the market so that by meeting the required standards. I don't have a period that I would say it would happen, but there is, I think, only one farm which managed to do that, which is a private company, and they're really enjoying the market at this point.
However, we've talked a lot about the global guides of certification. How global are these certifications if the requirements from China are that stringent?
Thank you, Philip. So what happens with global GAP certification? It's a certification that contains a set of standards that any person who wants to export a certain produce in any foreign market has to adhere to. So what happens is that some countries, they adhere to I think it's the main certification. There are other certification and other standards, but global GAP certification is a major certification. So what happens is that some countries, they adhere to the certification. For instance, Europe and Middle East. And that's why you find that most of our avocados goes to Europe and Middle East. Some countries, I don't know the case about China, but you find that some countries, they don't want to use the global GAP. They want to impose their own certification. That's why you find, for the case of China, I think Alex has really handled the question very well. But to me, I think what happened is that the moment we heard that there is market in China, we never did a well-calculated economic assessment, in the sense that, okay, here's the market, these are the standards that we are supposed to adhere to, but there is also some cost that comes with it, right? Like the facilities to freeze and everything. So I think what should have happened is the government would have come into place, do the economic assessment, see, is there any benefit if we meet these standards? Okay, if we install the facilities, freeze the avocado fruits to -30 degrees Celsius and export them to China, is the cost of doing all this equal or above to the benefits that we're getting? If it's not, if the cost is much than the benefit, of course, no one can do such kind of business. But again, now, what really killed the China market are brokers too. Because you find that someone goes to the farmers, they buy the produce, they buy the fruits, the avocado fruits, they have their some sort of freezing facilities, they freeze them and export themselves. right? So we find that the brokers, they make more money than the farmers. But I think China market, it's a place that we can still pursue going forward. See how we can balance the income we get and the cost that we put to do all the freezing.
Okay. You want
To
to
add
add
on
something?
something about the China market, um, it's their standard. That is what we say. We have been trying to quote them by all those bilateral talks and everything else. And when they opened the market, we were not ready to meet the standards. So
Good.
I don't really think there was anything they can do about it. It's on our side.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it comes to pricing, are they providing better prices than the markets we're exporting to at the moment?
Well, I would say what we do is, in market is controlled. It's not the prices in the market is controlled by competition. So the more market you have for your produce, the more demand you get for your produce, the more you can be able to balance the market. The cost of avocado, which we were exporting in around 2018, is not the same cost that we are exporting with in 2021. So it's an advantage to get more market so that you can leverage on the pricing.
Okay.
So it not necessarily means that China will come and tell you we're going to be buying your avocado in this high dollar cost, and this one is selling at a high dollar cost. But what we are checking is the more market we get, we can have a lot of options. And that keeps us at aloof and at a better position than when we have lower market. Because I always ask myself, what would happen if EU opens one day and then says we are closing avocado market to Kenya? Where do we head to? And farmers have the trees and they have to produce with themselves.
Probably, Philip, to add on what Alex said is that China was ready to buy Kenyan avocado in bulk, in the sense that if we buy many avocados, we can increase production in Kenya. Remember now, we have already dominated in the European markets. Something you don't know is that Kenya is ranked number 8 globally as in terms of production, which means now if we already dominated the European market, and China has double production in Kenya, which means now that we can put more counties into avocado farming, and we can try substituting our previous agriculture system, probably maize, coffee, tea, with avocado, which means now we bring more income to farmers, and more income to farmers, the more people will be employed in the system.
Okay. Well, agriculture is also a devolved function. Do you think the county and the national governments are doing enough to help the system or to help the sector?
I would say that the national government is doing quite a good job, though not fully to its limit. But the fact that agriculture is devolved, it brings devolution dilemma, because you find that agriculture in its general it's devolved, but the institution and organization and parastatals too, they are not devolved. For instance, Kenya Agriculture Research and Livestock Organization, KARO, is still under the national government. So I think the question that you should be putting to the government is, let's fully devolve the whole agricultural system. Let's devolve KARO, let's devolve other organizations and parastatals like ATDA, in the sense that if we devolve them, it will be easy for the local farmer to get services from this organization. Because what happens is different research organization, there are different KARO organization in different countries. For instance, I'll give an example of KARO in Mwea. It deals with rice. The fact that the organization itself is in Mwea, and Mwea is known for rice production, it means that the organization being in specific areas, they can tackle specific problems of those particular counties. So I think this is a wake-up call for the government. Let's devolve agriculture, let's devolve research organization, and let's try to make the organization in a quick reach to the farmers.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I would give the government a 5, in the sense that they have done something, but there's still more to be done. But my key area that I really try to emphasize on is the way we do our extension services. During our young days, around 25 years ago or 20 years ago, we used to see agriculture extension officers around our farms, but it doesn't happen no more. But now people should embrace what we call smart extensive services. I have always wanted to seek a way whereby we can have a one-stop facility center for farmers. It happens in developed countries. Why not us? It doesn't cost much. Did you see the kind of transformation the Huduma centers brought to the country? It's a one-stop facility where you can get all one-stop services. Why can't that happen to farming? Whereby you enter into an organization, you can get information about inputs. We can also partner with the private sector. It doesn't mean to have to be a public or a government initiative, whereby we can get into a hall or even a center, and farmers can get from input information, seedlings, certified seedlings, export requirements, or anything that appertain to agriculture in the whole chain. That would be a really hit for the country.
Okay. So, what do you think is the future of avocado farming in Kenya?
The future of avocado farming is luminous. That is what I would say. Luminous because if you check by statistics, when we started doing avocado as a really good business, South Africa was the leading export around 2017, and we made around 7.2 billion, the first really good export, where we beat China to be almost the leading producers of avocados in Africa. Within 3 years, the first quarter of 2021, we made 4.2 billion compared to last year where we had around 15,000 metric tons, 26, that's around 90 to 92% increase. So this tells you what? We are on an upward trajectory. So farmers should not be scared. Let them venture into avocado and venture it with a lot of trust. Things are going to change and they're changing for the best.
Okay. Waweru, what do you think is the future of avocado farming, especially when it comes to the market?
I think the future of avocado, like Alex has said, is luminous because the demand for avocado in the foreign market is insatiable, which means it's a business that most farmers can invest into and still make a good income. Like he said, in the first quarter, what really surprised me is that we made 4.2 billions in export. We're not talking about local markets. We're not talking about regional market between East Africa. That's just foreign markets, Europe and Middle East. So, which means if we put more resources in terms of government and extension services and most of attention into it, it's a business that can employ more farmers, bring income down to the local farmers, and employ most people and raise our GDP in some sort of way.
Okay. Both of you are young people. And we know we have so many young people out there who are complaining that there are no jobs. As we wind up, what could be your advice to young people out there looking for jobs and thinking the white-collar job is the only solution for their problems? Oh, Alex, let me start with you.
What I would give as an advice to young people is, into the contrary of everybody talk that let's get and do the actual farming. There is a limit because not everybody who can access land, one, and if you can access it, it's sometimes the land is still under your parents' hands. But we have a chain. Agriculture is a chain. We have production, we have export, we have pest and disease control, we have marketing. So if we can put into this value chain section, you can start by organizing farmers and you get something from it. You can start by selling input and get something from it. So from there, let's young people look into the whole chain other than production only, and there is a whole lot of opportunities for you to venture into it.
Okay. Well, what would be your advice?
I would say most young people, I won't look at the white-collar job. I look as farming of avocado as a way of generating income. I'll tell you, Philip, I was in the United States for 1.5 years, the whole of from last year to March this year. And what I found in the United States is most young people are involved in agriculture because they can generate income and their mode of doing, their way of production is good, if that makes sense. So let's put more money in agriculture. Let's revive our industries. Let's revive our research organization. And if we do that, we attract young people, we attract investors from foreign countries, and maybe to our young people, there's money in agriculture, there's money in soil. Let's get our hand in the soil and do farming, because agriculture is the future of Kenya and Africa in general.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Indeed, there is money in the soil, and it's only for those who will go look for it who will get it. For our viewers back at home, that is it from us today. We're today talking about avocado farming and why this sector is one of the sectors that you really need to look up to because of the opportunities that are coming from this sector. That is it from us today. Until next time, goodbye.